Welcome, friends. The evening was quiet in the small cafe, where the warm glow of lights softened the tired faces of the people sitting inside. At a corner table, a single-dad CEO sat with his little daughter, a man who was used to power and control in his office, but often felt helpless when it came to giving his child a simple, normal life. As their food arrived, the little girl's innocent eyes wandered. She noticed a young woman sitting alone at the next table, quietly looking down, her hands folded tightly as if holding back tears. A single cup of water sat before her untouched. Her eyes were tired, her clothes worn, and her stomach gave away the truth she tried to hide. The little girl tugged her father's sleeve gently. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice trembling with compassion. "She looks hungry. Can I share my food with her?" The father paused. For a moment, the weight of the world slipped away as he looked at his daughter. The pure kindness in her heart made his eyes sting with tears. He realized that his daughter was teaching him something he had forgotten in his life of business deals and corporate walls, humanity. Slowly, he nodded. "Yes, sweetheart. Let's share." The little girl smiled brightly and walked over with her plate. She placed it in front of the woman and said softly, "You can eat with us. Daddy says no one should ever be hungry." The woman froze, her eyes filling with tears as her lips trembled. She looked at the little girl, then at the father, who gave a gentle, reassuring nod. With shaking hands, she picked up a piece of food, unable to hold back her sobs. "Thank you," she whispered. "I haven't eaten in 2 days." The CEO, a man feared in boardrooms, felt his heart break. He reached out, placing his hand over hers, and said, "That you're not alone tonight. Sit with us." At that table, for the first time in years, it wasn't about power, money, or success. It was about love, kindness, and humanity, a reminder that the smallest act of compassion can heal the deepest wounds. The little girl leaned her head on her father's arm and whispered, "Daddy, I'm happy." And in that moment, he realized his daughter was not only his family, but also his teacher. Friends, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. And remember, this is Soul of Kindness. Welcome, friends. The cafe had grown quieter as the night deepened. The woman, now sitting at the CEO's table with his little daughter, tried to hide her tears as she slowly ate the food she'd been given. Every bite felt like a gift she didn't deserve. She kept murmuring, "Thank you, while wiping her face with trembling hands. The little girl, curious and full of warmth, asked softly, "What's your name, Auntie?" The woman hesitated before answering, her voice barely audible. "My name is Amina." The little girl smiled and said, "Amina, Auntie, don't be sad. Daddy says when you share kindness, hearts become lighter." Her innocent words filled the space with a tenderness that no busyness deal could ever create. The CEO watched in silence, his throat tightening. He was a man used to making million-dollar decisions. Yet here he sat, speechless, because of his daughter's compassion. Amina looked at him, her eyes reflecting both pain and gratitude. "I used to have a good life," she whispered. "But after my husband passed away, everything was taken from me. I tried to work, but life kept pushing me down. Tonight I came here just to sit, because the smell of food made me feel alive again." The father clenched his jaw, fighting back his emotions. He had spent years in boardrooms chasing profit, ignoring the struggles of those outside his glass office. Now, face to face with real suffering, he felt ashamed. The little girl reached out, holding Amina's hand with her tiny fingers. "You don't have to be alone anymore. You can sit with us every time we come here." Tears poured down Amina's face as she bent to kiss the little girl's hand. "You're an angel," she whispered. The CEO finally spoke, his voice low but firm. "Amina, from tomorrow I'll help you find a job. You've suffered enough. My daughter's right. No one should fight hunger or loneliness alone." Amina looked at him in shock, unable to believe such kindness was being offered by a man she only just met. For the first time in years, a flicker of hope returned to her tired heart. The little girl, proud of her father, hugged him tightly. "Daddy, see? Sharing food makes everyone happy." At that moment, the CEO realized that his wealth didn't lie in his company or bank accounts. It lived in his daughter's heart. And through her, he had rediscovered the true meaning of life. Friends, if this story touched your soul, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. This is Soul of Kindness. Welcome, friends. The next morning, the CEO couldn't get Amina's tearful eyes out of his mind. He was used to numbers, profits, and meetings, but last night had planted something new in his heart, a responsibility toward people beyond his office walls. Holding his daughter's tiny hand, he returned to the cafe, hoping to find Amina again. She was there, sitting quietly in the corner, her hands wrapped around a small glass of tea. When she saw them, her face lit up with surprise, followed by disbelief. The little girl rushed toward her, hugging her tightly. "Amina, Auntie, Daddy said we would come back for you." Amina's voice broke. "You remembered me?" The CEO stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with warmth. "How could we forget? You reminded me of something I'd lost a long time ago, humanity. He placed a small envelope on the table. This isn't charity. It's a new beginning. I've spoken to a friend who owns a design company. They need someone sincere and hardworking. This letter will take you there tomorrow. You'll have a job. Amina froze, her hands trembling as she touched the envelope. Sir, I don't know how to thank you. People walk past me every day as if I don't exist. But you and your daughter, you saw me. The little girl, with her bright innocence, replied, That's because love sees what eyes sometimes don't. Tears streamed down Amina's face. She fell to her knees in front of the little girl. You're not just a child, you're my miracle. The cafe grew silent as other customers, overhearing the conversation, watched with moist eyes. Some began to gather around, offering small words of support and encouragement. It was as if one act of kindness had opened the hearts of many. The CEO felt something shift inside him. All his life he thought success was measured in wealth and power. But here in this simple cafe, his daughter had shown him that success was measured in compassion. He gently lifted Amina to her feet. No more tears. From now on, you'll walk with dignity. And if life ever knocks you down again, you won't be alone. We'll stand with you. The little girl clapped her hands happily. See, Daddy? Now Amina Auntie will smile every day. Amina hugged them both tightly, whispering through her tears, You've given me more than food. You've given me hope, family, and a reason to live again. In that moment, 3 souls, once strangers, were bound by the power of kindness. Friends, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. This is Soul of Kindness. Welcome, friends. The following day arrived with golden sunlight spreading across the city. The CEO, dressed in his usual sharp suit, wasn't heading straight to his office. Instead, he held his daughter's hand as they walked together toward the design company, where Amina was to start her new job. His daughter carried a small flower bouquet she had begged her father to buy for Amina when they entered the office. Amina was already there, nervous and uncertain, clutching the letter he had given her. She stood apart from the other employees, clearly feeling out of place. Her old clothes made her stand out in the sea of polished professionals. But when she saw the little girl rushing toward her with a bright smile, carrying flowers, her heart melted. Amina Auntie, the little girl said, hugging her tightly. These are for you, to wish you good luck on your first day. Amina's eyes overflowed with tears. She accepted the flowers with trembling hands, whispering, No one has ever done this for me. Not since my husband passed away. You've given me a new life, child. The CEO stepped forward, his deep voice calm but filled with emotion. Amina, you don't owe me anything. You earned this chance by surviving through pain with courage. Today, you're not just an employee. You're a fighter who inspires my daughter, and even me. The staff in the office looked on quietly. Some whispered among themselves, touched by the sight of their powerful boss showing such compassion. The atmosphere shifted. The office that once only echoed with deadlines and targets now echoed with kindness. Amina, overwhelmed, bowed her head. Sir, I don't know how to repay this. Before the CEO could respond, the little girl spoke up with the innocence of truth. You don't need to repay anything, Amina Auntie. Just promise me you'll always smile now. Because when you smile, it feels like sunshine. The whole office fell silent, many wiping tears from their eyes. The CEO, a man known for being unshakable, felt a lump in his throat. He gently placed his hand on Amina's shoulder and said, My daughter is right. From today, you're part of our family. Amina wept openly, hugging the little girl again. For her, this moment was more than a job. It was dignity, hope, and the rebirth of her broken spirit. The CEO looked at his daughter, realizing once again that she was the true teacher in his life. She had reminded him that the greatest wealth was not in banks, but in hearts touched by kindness. Friends, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. This is Soul of Kindness. Welcome, friends. Weeks passed after Amina began her new job. What started as a small act of kindness in a cafe had now grown into a beautiful bond of trust and hope. Amina, once fragile and broken, was slowly turning into a confident woman. Every morning she came to work neatly dressed, her eyes no longer full of despair but of determination. The CEO watched her progress silently, often amazed at how quickly she became one of the most hardworking and creative employees in the company. But deep inside, he knew it wasn't just the job that gave her strength, it was the love of his little daughter, who never let Amina feel alone. One afternoon, the little girl visited the office with her father. As soon as she entered, she ran straight to Amina's desk. Amina Auntie, she squealed, hugging her. Daddy said you've been doing amazing work. Amina knelt down, her eyes shining with tears. And it's all because of you, little one. If you hadn't shared your food with me that night, I wouldn't even be standing here today. The girl touched Amina's cheek gently. It wasn't just food, Auntie. It was love. And love never ends, it keeps growing. The entire office fell silent at her words. Even the CEO, a man who once measured life in profits and numbers, felt his heart ached with pride. He realized his daughter was shaping not only his life, but also the lives of everyone around her. That day, the CEO gathered all his employees, standing before them with his daughter by his side. He spoke with unusual softness. We build businesses with money, but we build humanity with kindness. Amina is a reminder of that truth. My daughter's small act changed someone's life. I want all of us to remember sometimes. The greatest power we hold is not in our positions, but in our ability to care. The employees, many with tears in their eyes, applauded. Amina wept silently, holding the little girl's hand like it was her lifeline. And for her, this was no longer just a job. It was a family she had found in the darkest chapter of her life. The little girl whispered into her father's ear, "Daddy, this is what happiness looks like." And for the first time in years, the CEO smiled, not the proud smile of a businessman, but the humble smile of a man who had rediscovered his soul. Friends, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. This is Soul of Kindness. Welcome, friends. Months passed and Amina's life had completely transformed. Once a lonely, hungry widow sitting in a cafe corner, she now stood tall as one of the most respected employees in the design company. She had new clothes, a warm apartment, and most importantly, she had hope. But the biggest change was in her heart. She had learned that kindness, once received, must be passed on. One cold evening as she walked home from work, Amina noticed a little boy sitting on the pavement. His clothes were torn and his tiny hands shivered as he hugged his knees. He stared at a bakery display, his eyes full of longing, but he had nothing. Amina froze. Her heart raced. This was her, months ago, the same hunger, the same helplessness. She felt tears well up as memories of that night in the cafe came rushing back. She heard the little girl's voice in her mind. It wasn't just food, Auntie. It was love. And love never ends, it keeps growing. With trembling hands, she walked up to the boy. "Are you hungry, Bader?" she asked softly. The boy nodded without a word, afraid to speak. Amina gently took his hand and led him into the bakery. She ordered food and watched as he ate hurriedly, tears streaming down her cheeks. When he was done, she gave him her scarf and whispered, "From today, you are not alone. Just like someone once shared kindness with me, I will share it with you." The boy's eyes widened. Why? "Why are you helping me?" he asked in a broken voice. Amina smiled through her tears. "Because a little angel once taught me that when we share food, we share love. And that love can save lives." The bakery owner, who had been listening, quietly added a packet of bread into the boy's bag without charging a penny. People around the bakery wiped their eyes, touched by the sight. Kindness was spreading again. Just like a chain, one heart passing the light to another. The next day, Amina visited the CEO and his daughter at their office. With tears in her eyes, she told them what had happened. The little girl clapped her hands happily and hugged Amina. "See, Auntie, you became an angel too." The CEO looked at both of them, his heart full. He whispered, "This is the true wealth of life, the cycle of kindness that never ends." And in that moment, they all realized the smallest act of love can grow into a legacy that touches countless lives. Friends, if this story touched your soul, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. This is Soul of Kindness.